Good morning. Welcome to our bi-weekly press conference. This will obviously be the last one of 2024, so give you kind of some summary and some wrap up of a few things, as well as go over a couple of new things. So first, I want to start off with this week is the third anniversary of the death of Officer Zach Cottingham. We were able to celebrate with his family, his life, again down at the 1st Division, and we always want to point out how dangerous this job is and how much we care about the officers who are willing to put their lives at risk for our community. And he will never be forgotten, and we really appreciate his sacrifice as well as his family, who is still heavily involved in LMPD, two of whom are employed by LMPD. So we're very appreciative of his time and service with us. Overview of the crime numbers. You can see across the board we are down in these violent crime categories. Very proud of that. Their numbers are not where we would like them to be, of course, but to have a reduction at this point in homicides, non-fatal shootings, as well as carjackings, particularly when you look at those non-fatal shooting numbers and those carjackings, those are pretty statistically significant numbers. And the number of victims that are reduced is very important. So one of the other things we'll point out is that when we began the non-fatal shooting unit, the way that things were structured previously were that non-fatal shootings went to district detectives. We had a period of time where it was with district detectives who managed an entire caseload of all their other cases, and then it was assigned to homicide, and then it went back to district detectives. But since we have started the non-fatal shooting squad, and since their inception, our clearance rate for non-fatal shootings has gone up over 600%. Those are very difficult crimes to investigate and have successful prosecutions and arrests on. But having that centralized focus unit that is what they deal with has been very, very impactful, and we're very proud of that. The other number you'll see is those federal indictments, and we've talked about those in the past and how important they are. And it shows the work and the quality of work that's being done by detectives. And again, this year, we have a record high number of federal indictments. That means we are taking the right people off the street, and they're going to serve significant time. Our arrests overall are down 16% year to date. But for homicides and robberies, our arrests are up significantly. That shows the focus on the right people, pulling those people who are committing violent crimes off the street. And getting them into the criminal justice system where they belong. The other thing is, if you look at burglaries as well as auto thefts, that auto theft number is down significantly. You all know that last year, and for a significant portion of this year, the issues with Kias and Hyundais being stolen got really out of control. While that problem's not solved, you have seen a significant reduction in the amount of auto thefts. And that's one of those crimes that it really makes people feel vulnerable when your car is stolen. So very happy to see that number have gone down 20% year to date. And a little bit of focus on some of the work that has been done specifically within the Criminal Interdiction Division, which they are there to focus on violent crime, gun crimes, those types of things, and get some of those most dangerous people off the street. And year to date, they've seized 293 firearms off the street, and 42 of those were stolen, and 136 out of 293 firearms that they seized were on convicted felons. You can see that's a pretty significant number. And then 20 firearms that they've taken off of juveniles that definitely have no business having those types of weapons. So when we talk about firearm seized, we're talking about this is a potential shooting or homicide or carjacking that was prevented or interrupted. And so those are 293 opportunities for violent crimes that have been interrupted. Our primary focus is not drugs, but we know that narcotics has a heavy nexus into violent crime, and the problems that it creates within the community are significant. So we are never going to lose track of making sure that we are still addressing illegal narcotics. And you can see just the extreme numbers of narcotics that we've seized year to date. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can read them. But that is a significant amount of drugs that could be very, very harmful to our community that's been taken off the street. And that's just by the Criminal Interdiction Division. This is not the entire department as a whole. This is a microcosm of focused police work by one set of officers within the CID, and it pales in comparison to what the entire department is doing as a whole. But a very good example of the types of works between the firearms and the drugs that have been taken off the street at this point. And you can see how many felony arrests that small group of officers have made, 633, and seized $1.6 million in illegal currency that's coming through the drug markets and gun trafficking markets in Louisville. At this point, we've had some really good success in some of our homicides cases this past week, and so I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Les Skaggs, who's the commander of the homicide unit.
Good afternoon. Before I begin, I just wanted to cover one thing, just to echo what the chief said. The cooperation between multiple units within LMPD has made the homicide unit have a more successful number of getting cases solved. The work that CID does to assist us and the non-fatal shooting unit, we all work together like never before, and that makes a huge difference in our department when we come together and work together to solve these cases. So again, I can't say enough about the CID unit and all the units within that unit that assist us every day in solving these cases and tracking people down, putting in hours of surveillance, trying to catch these people for us so we can focus on our other cases we have going. And again, before we get started on the slides, I just wanted to go over a couple statistics with you all as we approach the end of 2024. In December of 2024, we've only had 2 criminal homicides, which is amazing. The next lowest month was last month, November. We had 7. So we are on pace for December to be the lowest number in 2024 for criminal homicides, and that's great because obviously with 138 homicides this year, there were some really dangerous months in Louisville, and it has really, the last couple months have really slowed down. With that, our detectives have been able to do some quality work because they've had more time to focus on their previous cases. So in the last 8 criminal cases, one of those was 7 criminal homicides and a critical assault. We've made arrests in 6 of those cases. So 6 out of our last 8 cases that we've picked up, we've been able to make an arrest already. And that's awesome because those families, as they approach the end of the year, they want justice for their families, and now they will have an empty chair at their table, but they will at least know that they had justice. At least somebody's been charged for the crime that committed against their family. The homicide unit, as of 2024, has 138 criminal homicides now, and of those, LMPD has 57 cases have been cleared with an arrest. So 81 are still open. That's 81 families this holiday season which will not have a loved one there. We would very much like to solve all 81 of those cases, but realistically, we are doing the best we can. We currently have 22 detectives in homicide taking fresh cases, and they have shown that through the last couple months that the reason that I believe this is possible is because they've had time to work their cases. They're not picking up a case that, so frequently that they don't have time. So that shows that when we have time to investigate these cases, our solve rate goes way up. And that's obviously one of our main goals is to solve these violent crimes. And it goes back to a team effort with all the units in major crimes and with the CID division. So again, just to highlight these cases, on December 10th, Damon Taylor was arrested for the homicide of Kevin Underwood. That homicide occurred in November 29th at 6113 Preston Highway. On December 11th, we arrested Anita Martinez. She was arrested in relation to that homicide. On December 11th, Anthony Nichols was arrested for the homicide of Erica Brown, which occurred at Cox's Park December 10th. On December 13th, Skylar McAdams was taken into custody in Harrison County, Indiana, on 2 counts of complicity to murder, which was in relation to the homicide of Corey Dillard and Jagger Zan, which occurred in January 31st of 2024 at 12th and Ali. On December 16th, we arrested Gordon Jackson II for the homicide of Keon King, which occurred on September 8th, 2024 at 2517 Woodland Avenue. And then again on December 17th, we arrested Antonio Glenn Jr. He was arrested for the homicide of Jarek Young, which occurred on September 13th at 1612 Dixie Highway.
Thank you, Lieutenant Skaggs, and appreciate all the work that you all are doing in homicide. Obviously, we're at that time of the year with the holidays being here, and one of the things that we want to remind people of is to be careful about theft. And so make sure that you're aware of your surroundings, make sure you're locking your doors, make sure you're not leaving valuables sitting on your seat and your car's unlocked. But also one of the things I want to point out is these swap zones. A lot of people buy things off the internet, and that is a potential where you're meeting a stranger in a strange place to exchange money and or items. You have to be careful when you do those things. So if you look, we have 4 swap zones set up at police divisions, the 2nd, 3rd, 7th, and 8th. So if you're meeting somebody and you're buying something off of Marketplace online, go to one of these designated swap zones that are at a police station. They're under video surveillance, and there are people around. Do not do these things in parks and street corners. Make sure you go to very highly visible places that you know there are going to be cameras, that you know there are going to be other people around to reduce that likelihood that you become a victim. And then when we talk about package deliveries on your porches and things like that, if you're not going to be able to be home, time those so they come at a time when you are, or have those delivered to a central location. Most of those places, they can deliver it to different stores or things like that where you can go pick them up, as opposed to having packages sitting on your porch unattended for extended periods of time. Just don't create the opportunity for thieves when you can prevent it. Again, focus on recruitment. Please guide your friends, your family members. Go to our website, lmpdjobs.com. You can scan this QR code. One of the things I want to point out is that there are many different opportunities. You can come and be a sworn officer with us, or there are opportunities as professional staff, and we have actually some of our professional staff in the back of the room today that do amazing work in many different fields that support police work that we do every day. And so don't think that you, in order to serve with LMPD, that you have to have a gun and a badge. There are many opportunities across the board, so inquire with us. Community survey on our crime plan is open to the public, and it'll continue to be open for several more weeks. We want feedback on what the community wants to see from their police department and how we combat crime, and particularly violent crime. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
You're attributing time, getting time and helping the clearance rate of homicides. How are we getting the detectives more time? What are we doing that we have more than we did?
Well, and I can turn that over to Lieutenant Skaggs if he would like, but when you look at that homicide rate and how many cases they're picking up per month, when you go down from 7 to 2 cases, that is time that would be out there picking up new cases that now they can dedicate to working the cases that they already have. So a lot of it has to do with a reduction in the frequency of homicides, giving them the opportunity to focus on the cases that have already happened.
And is that a directive that you put in place that you presented? Hey,
well, my directive has always been don't kill people. Mm-hmm. So I'm preferring that the community don't kill each other so that the homicide unit can have more time to work on their cases. But that is part of the crime plan, right? So if we can reduce the frequency of violent crime, it reduces that overall caseload on those detectives, which gives them more opportunity to thoroughly work each case.
The homicide unit is divided into 4 squads. Each squad has anywhere from 4 to 6 detectives assigned to it. So when a homicide occurs, through a rotation, that squad responds and investigates that criminal homicide as a squad. So if there's 5 people in a squad and they pick up their next case, if you are also in that squad and you had just picked up a case, you have to kind of pause on your case because your squad is now picking up another case. So it's not just the individual detectives that have a lot of cases. Obviously, with 4 squads, they run through that rotation sometimes on our especially our busier months, we've had more criminal homicides. They run through that rotation very quickly, and they are then, have to not as much time to focus on their cases. So what we've seen started in November really is continued through December with more cases that those individual detectives with their squad are able to focus on solving those recent cases, and as well the other cases that have occurred throughout the previous year.
Lieutenant, you guys have made a push to get the public's help in solving all these crimes. Are you seeing any help?
Yes, we are. I mean, when we made the appeal 2 weeks ago, we saw an increase in the number of tips that came in. That's something that has to continue. It's vital to our investigations to have that community support for information to provide us who or what or why these homicides occurred.
Are you grateful to see that shift?
I'm sorry?
Are you grateful to see that shift, to ask for help and to get it?
It's always beneficial. 574 LMPD has been around for a long time. It is, seasonally, it's just going to change. I think people forget about it, and we always want to remind them of it because that community support is crucial to not just homicides, but all criminal acts that occur in Louisville. to be able to solve them, and we get information from someone who has eyewitness accounts of what they actually saw, that's huge, not just for homicides, but for all crimes in Louisville. So I think Louisville Metro has had that 574 number for quite a while. It's been extremely beneficial. And yes, we continue to put that number out there because we want people to never forget that we need their support and their information that they have to provide to us. And that 574 LMPD is a perfect way to do that.
So I think you have a combination of both as far as who is committing the car break-ins around town. Those are generally crimes of opportunity, right? So somebody sees a valuable thing sitting on somebody's back seat, pulls the door handle, but you also have just plain out thieves that is their profession. They go to parking lots, they pull door handles. Sometimes they do those in groups. So we do have a combination of small groups of people who do this, and we've seen that before between auto break-ins and auto thefts where they've been done in groups before. But those are really crimes of opportunity, and we know that when we reduce that opportunity by simple things like locking doors, hiding valuables, not leaving key fobs in cars, it reduces those car break-ins.
And the professional thieves, you think they're the ones who are doing like the hospital break-ins, the car break-ins at the hospitals?
So professional thieves is a kind of funny way to put that, right? Because I would believe a professional wouldn't be breaking into cars. But yes, that's these people's job. This is how they make a living is by preying on other people. And so it is very important that we understand the impact of that and dedicate resources to it. I've got very little tolerance for thieves. You know, people work hard for the things that they get, and it should not be okay that people go in and steal somebody's stuff. It compromises your sense of safety in a way that hits very much differently from some other types of crimes. But yes, there are professional thieves out there, for lack of a better term, and they should be treated as such in the court system.
Chief, sticking with the topic of thieves, you talked about, holiday thefts, of course, go up this time of year, people taking packages off porches, things like that. Are those also just mainly crimes of opportunity, or do you find like groups try to steal those, resell some packages? What do you see with those kinds of crimes?
So as far as the package thefts, it's the same as auto thefts. Some of them are crimes of opportunity, but there are people who they go out there on a day-to-day basis and they look to prey on innocent people. And so we are making sure that we work with all of our community partners. Those are crimes that are huge as far as getting community input. Ian asked the question about the community input and cooperation. That's extremely important because a lot of those are captured on doorbell cameras and things like that. And I think some people they'll put it out on the neighborhood chats and things like that, but they chalk it up to a loss. Don't. Provide that video to us. Let us work those cases, because oftentimes what we can do is we can connect those to other thefts in the area. And so it's much more impactful in getting a punishment that's appropriate for the crime when we can show a judge that, hey, they didn't just happen to be walking down the street and saw a package out on the porch, but they were involved in 15 other thefts in the area. And so it is important that people actually report those and provide those videos and things like that they have.
Do you see those crimes obviously tick up probably this time of year? I mean, by how much do you usually see those come in?
So as far as the uptick during this time of the year, I can't give you an exact percentage, but anecdotally, yes, these types of thefts. And it's, like I said, it's a crime of opportunity. More packages are being delivered right now, and more people with ill will are going to go out there and take advantage of that.
This is billed as a year-end review. Is Louisville safer than it was a year ago?
I believe so, but we are not where we should be. And I will say it time and time again. You look at our homicides are down a little bit, our shootings are down a bit. When you look at what Louisville was pre-2020 compared to now, when we averaged, mid-70s in homicides, I think people would rave if we had 110 homicides. It's not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. So this is an endless game, the Simon Sinek infinite game. There is no goal to the end of this. This is about constant improvement and how we can make sure each day people feel safer. I can give you all the statistics in the world. numbers don't matter to people. Their sense of safety is what matters, and that's our goal, is to make sure that people feel safe in this community. So we're constantly going to be putting in efforts to change our approaches, change our tactics, to make people objectively safer and feel safer at the same time.
Do we have any success stories from the crime plan so far? I know it's the early days, but just something specific to give people confidence.
You want to talk about anything specific? So one of the things that we did see was Major Russ Miller in the 2nd Division. They had a spike. Right around the time we put out the crime plan, they had a spike. And he took and shifted his entire personnel in his division, took his impact detectives, took the detectives out of his office, shifted people where they were. And over the course of the next, I think it was 2 weeks, the next reporting period, I think he went from something like, and don't quote me on the numbers, but it was something like 7 violent crimes in that previous period down to, I think, 1. That's what that's about. It's about looking at the numbers and being willing to move resources around in order to solve a problem. And the other thing that we've done is, how are we focusing the entire department's resources on those problems? So when we look at that sustained focus improvement areas, those 5 areas, I think people are focused and thinking, oh, that's the only place LMPD is dedicating resources. That's absolutely not the case. What it's about is, when you look at that data responsive section, that short term, is how is the department helping that division, regardless of where it is, with the problems that they're having. And so the cooperation that we're getting from division to division and unit to unit has improved greatly.
So it's just one of those things where the further ahead you can get on this, the more you're going to be able to free up time, so that if you're preventing these violent crimes, it's easier to solve the ones you do have on your plate. Do you see it as feeding itself, getting yourselves ahead?
So that's absolutely the point, is that as you impact crime today, it'll impact crime down the road, right? Because you've reduced the number of victims, you've reduced the number of offended people who might go out there and commit retaliatory crimes, and you start to change the culture and the appearance of neighborhoods, which is going to reduce that crime. So that's why it was that three-term approach, that three-front approach of, we have to address the problems that pop up now, but we can't do that and not think about that violent offender enforcement, as well as those long-term neighborhood-focused things. And I think that's the whole point of putting this all in one plan, is that we've traditionally done one thing at a time. All right, let's focus on this, or let's focus on that, or let's focus on that. Focusing on them all 3 at the same time simultaneously means that one area, one front supports the other.
Chief, it's nearly 6 months into the no camping ban statewide. Any insight on to how many times officers are being called to folks that they be camping in public parks, or any citation that stem from that?
So 6 months into the change from House Bill 5 with the illegal camping ban, and what's the impact of that? And so I believe we've had 47, somewhere between 40 and 60 citations or arrests on illegal camping. But I will tell you the biggest impactful thing that has just started in relation to that, between the Coalition for the Homeless and meeting with the District Court Chief Judge Jessica Moore, what we've created now is an illegal camping docket. So much like other crimes, there's a specific court date that is going to be assigned for people that are illegal camping. And what that does is it gives consistency in the court system. It also gives the opportunity for resources and support that people in those circumstances need to be present and can be part of solving that problem. So if you have a criminal behavior on the front side that brings it to our attention, and we are able to contact that person and offer them resources between RCS and some of the other governmental entities that can offer housing, education, those types of things on the front side. And then if it does come to the point where we have to arrest or cite someone, now you have that support system that's going to hit on the backside in the court system. And so when the court system can hold somebody accountable and kind of keep track, you've placed somebody in a system that will help track them to a better place, if that makes sense. So I think that's going to be really impactful once that's up and running in January.
And the time spent on those calls, has that increased another event happening that happens to be House of First.
So I don't have the exact numbers on the time spent. What I can tell you is that it is very important that we enforce those behaviors, right? It's not about enforcing someone's status. It's about paying attention to the behaviors that might be damaging to the community. And so we want to make sure that everyone feels safe everywhere they are.
Chief, I have a question following up from the explosion in Clifton. Neighbors had talked about how, those who were impacted by the explosion, impacted by break-ins happening. And last time I checked with you guys, neighbors just hadn't made those reports to you. So maybe you haven't received those reports still about that issue. But I just wanted to know if you guys are helping Givaudan and all, and keeping just an eye on that neighborhood. They've hired 24/7 security to help neighbors because of that issue. Not sure if you're partnering with them or not, but just wanted to get your take on how you're helping there.
Yeah, so the follow-up to the explosion and some of the potential break-in issues that we're seeing over there. And so Major Grissom in the 5th Division has been working with the neighborhood association and people over there to make sure that we have resources that are paying attention to that neighborhood specifically, knowing that is a crime of opportunity, right? So how can we interrupt that crime cycle when people can't take care of that themselves? But ultimately, when it comes down to it, Givaudan is a private entity that caused damage to that neighborhood, and they're going to ultimately be the ones that are responsible for a lot of that. But we are responsible for making sure we understand the risk to the citizens over there, and so Major Grissom has been very responsive to making sure he's getting extra patrols and things like that to the area.
Chief, I wanted to ask, going back to the homicides, we're seeing another year of triple-digit homicides. You talked about pre-2020, how that wasn't the case. Why do you think we continue seeing these numbers, and what's maybe a message you would send it to our community?
So the difference in what has happened in the last 4 years or so versus pre-2020, I think, is a very complicated thing, and if somebody could figure it out completely, I think they'd make a lot of money. That being said, I think when you look at all of the factors of what we faced in this community between COVID, civil unrest, the issues that we had within the police department as far as our numbers being reduced by 250 plus officers, the lack of proactivity by officers for various reasons, I think those all contributed. But again, this has to be a multifaceted approach. If we just say, all right, we need officers to just go out there and swarm neighborhoods and hammer it, well, that's not an appropriate response to this type of issue. If we just assume that police alone can do this, obviously culture of violent crime in Louisville has changed significantly. People are more willing to shoot with each other, shoot at people than they were before. So this has to be a multi-front approach to dealing with this violent crime issue. And so one of the things is that as a community, as a city, we as people we cannot be accepting that this is our new norm. It's not okay that this number of homicides is our new norm, and people need to speak up and be very vocal and involved about changing that.
And I wanted to ask, when it comes to state support, is there an area where you would want to see action on, whether it's legislatively or through prosecution, to help reduce violent crime in the area?
Yeah, so as far as state support, I think we've been in a pretty good position with our state legislature the last couple of years as far as support. Very appreciative of that. I can tell you one of the things that's always on top of mind for me when it comes to one of our biggest issues is recruitment. Doing away with this state pension system several years ago was extremely harmful to the police department. This is a tough job, and people knowing what their benefits are going to be on the back end, it gives a sense of stability and comfort in doing a job that is very, very difficult, of knowing what you're going to get on the backside. It also gets a long-term buy-in from people that, let's face it, the marketplace has changed. You all as reporters move around all the time. That's not traditionally how police officers did it, and it is starting to become much more like that. So anything that we can get as far as something like a defined benefit pension that keeps people here and keeps some loyalty to the agency and the community, we want to take care of, and I think that could be very helpful. But I don't pass laws, so my job and the job of the commanders here is to make sure that LMPD is a great place to work, that people know that they're cared about and they know their command staff and their city's going to support them and give them the resources to do their job to the best of their ability. So.